We are in Las Vegas. Folks, this is reInvent 2023. And today, well, the whole thing, but especially today, all about data, all about AI, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But if you're new around these parts, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. You can just use the comments down below. Tell me who you are, tell me where you are, because while we are going to share our responses to the live stream today from Swami, what I want to encourage you to do is to not just introduce yourself and where you are in the world, but also if you have any questions or things that caught your attention, I'd love for you to put those in the comments below. So with that, I think it's time to introduce our guests here today. We're going to start with Nirmal Ranganathan. Nirmal, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Principal Data Genius Architect, I think is the title, if I'm correct, right?
You can keep adding all those titles there.
All right. Unfortunately, they don't come with a pay raise. But, and also, Hemanta, you're back. We're glad that you're here, Hemanta Banerjee, fresh in from Singapore.
Good to be here, Jeff.
So glad that you are here. So, gentlemen, there was a lot of chatting going on today, and it really built on a lot of what was presented yesterday. You know, let's maybe Nirmal. What jumped to your mind first of all? We took copious notes. We have our devices. We're ready to share.
We'll start with the biggest one.
Yeah.
And probably the newest service, Amazon Q.
Amazon Q. They let in with that yesterday.
They let in with that yesterday. You talked about the features there. They expanded on some of the capabilities. They showed more examples of Amazon Q acting as a co-pilot for AWS. So within the console, most of the services, they're not there for all the services. Most of the services have that compatibility now.
Yeah.
And one of the new ones that came out was Redshift. Amazon Q for Redshift.
Yeah.
That is an interesting one because generating complex SQL is still a hard job.
That is. I was really impressed with that because what I caught my attention on that one, just to interrupt you, of course, is not just creating the SQL, but when you ask the question of what you want, it knows what tables to go looking for.
Exactly.
That
Being able to infer the schema and do that, really amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So you can really just ask a question of what you want. It goes back to what do you really want to know?
Exactly.
And I mean, if you think about it, the world is going towards kind of like self-service analysts, self-service business analysts, data analysts, and so on. And with this capability, they were, what stopped them from asking all the questions that they had in their mind was, do I know how to write the SQL to get the answers?
That's right.
And they would, you would bring all of this stuff in Excel, do lots of massaging and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now you can get like 10x more productive because the system does all of those things for you. At least gives you a starting point.
And when you think about what that was like in real life, what it was in real life, like if you're the data analyst and you're writing the SQL and I'm the business guy and I need to find out the answers, I'm going to send you a note. We're going to get together in a meeting. I'm going to say this is what I want to know. You're going to ask some clarifying questions and you're going to go back to your desk and start to work on that. But lo and behold, you won't have all the information you need.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. And even troubleshooting.
Yeah.
So I have something in place.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time to troubleshoot.
Yeah.
Now all I have to ask is ask you, find me the problem, or go change this parameter and it regenerates the SQL for you.
Yeah.
Just a cautionary note. Again, it's a large language model. Your SQL might not be accurate all the time.
Yeah.
It might not even compile. Many times it'll be a really good starting point as opposed to something that you can use right away.
Yeah.
But it saves you all of that effort so that you can get to the last step and troubleshoot and do it instead of starting from a blank slate and then trying to figure out what needs to be done. So
now, are we really getting to a point where a business analyst with some SQL knowledge can now go in and use Q directly in the console?
Yeah, absolutely.
And not that you're not needed anymore, but you could work on deeper and harder jobs.
Yes, correct.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So
you can do things faster, right? You can do things faster.
Yeah.
So you can get the data faster. So you don't spend time in pulling data. You spend time in doing analysis so that you can get the answers that people are looking for.
You know what I've observed over the years, and I get excited about this, and it's when the tech team, the business, the data analysts will get together with the business, and they'll say, we can solve your problems, we can create those answers for you, and the business folks will say, sure you can. Others have tried. And but then when you're successful, you come back with what they give you 5 things to go solve for. You come back with those 5 things, and you see the light bulb go off, and they say, well, if you can answer those 5 things, well, then surely you can answer these 25 things. Yes. Now we don't have weeks in between that anymore. You talk about speed. I think that's really the
productivity
message.
improvements. Yeah, speed to market. And speed to your queries. that also adds one more thing to Q,
Okay.
which they announced yesterday for QuickSight, but really went into more detail on being able to like create elaborate stories
Yeah.
within QuickSight.
Adam showed a little bit of that yesterday.
He did show a
didn't
bit
he?
of that yesterday, but getting more into the details, that is amazing.
Yeah.
So now not only can you do SQL queries, but within QuickSight, we talked about, I think yesterday they talked about building your charts and graphs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now it's about the storytelling piece. How do I pull all that together?
Right.
Multiple charts, bring up the explanations, the reasoning, the recommendations,
The citations, everything.
all of that. And also giving you options to go edit and tune those recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
Because end of the day, you want your message to be relayed.
Yeah.
Q is your assistant, and it's not necessarily doing the job for you.
Right.
You still have to make those final decisions.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
You know, and it's been a big challenge with all of this technology and the advancements that it's had is because it can do so much. It's like those big Swiss Army knives. Because it can do so many things, it's the complexity is now the barrier. But this is what's
No.
taking away the complexity.
When you talk about large language model, I think something that came up today in the session from Intuit.
That was really interesting.
That it was really the best part that she mentioned was that it's not one single ginormous large language model
Yeah.
that is the right answer.
Yes.
In many cases, what you need are smaller LLMs that are fine-tuned specifically
Yeah.
to solve a specific problem,
Right.
which are more cost-effective and probably get you better results.
Yeah, she even broke it down like your small business,
Yes.
personal business,
Yeah.
these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So it gets so
Exactly. And that gets us to the next point
Yeah.
of Amazon being true to their nature,
yeah.
enabling multiple models.
Yeah.
That's databases. Any service you look at that Amazon provides,
Yeah.
AWS provides, it's all across different databases, different
Mm-hmm.
platforms. So you as a builder, you have the flexibility to go build.
Use the right tools.
They've done the same with the models, and they've started to actually expand on the models that are available.
And now you can use multimodal embeddings, right? So
That's a good
so
one.
instead of
Yeah.
having to stitch all of this code together, you can go to one service, and depending on the nature of the inputs, it's going to use the right model. I think that's a huge
Yes.
productivity gain for builders.
Absolutely. What I'm excited to see is what comes next, because we talked about they've released the multimodal for the embeddings. When is the multimodal for the actual generation going
Right.
to come into play?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The multimodal stuff I think is really just is super powerful because
Yeah.
you can whether you're getting that through text, whether it's images, whether it's whatever. I mean you get all the
Yeah.
context.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff, and it really does make you think. I like the way you phrased it just a few seconds ago, and that is, I'm excited about this, but I can't wait to see what comes next
Yes.
because you can see where it's going.
Yeah. There's a path, there's a trajectory that's created now.
Right.
And it's a matter of starting to expand on that. I think for builders, for customers, and users of the technologies, it's a much more clearer path of where we're headed.
Mm-hmm.
Last few months was a little bit hazy.
Yeah.
Right? It's just all over the place, there are a lot of things happening. Much more clearer path starting to align, right?
Yeah. There's been, the fall is the season of conferences, and there's been lots of announcements, and everything is so focused in and around AI, and everybody's excited about it, which is great. And AWS did a really good job, I thought, also of calling out the fact that, while they didn't have maybe not have as many announcements earlier in the year, this is a multi-decades, well, not maybe multi-decades, even been doing
A couple of
it.
years. I
Yeah,
mean,
this is a
doesn't
decade
happen.
of work
Yes.
that
Yeah,
is now being
it didn't happen
expressed.
overnight. No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
This is a couple of years testing it out. Like they mentioned, they test a lot of these technologies out as part of the customer experience or user experience they provide as part of Amazon.com.
Yeah.
And then whatever comes out of that is what enterprises can use because tried, tested, ready for prime time use. For us to then go and integrate and
Yeah.
build new solutions. I mean, how exciting is that?
And another sort of side story or really inferred story from all the stories today was,
Right.
yes, generative AI is really the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
But when you're actually building applications, you're building complex scenarios. It's not just the generative AI and large language models.
No, that's how it gets exposed to us.
That is how it gets exposed. That's how things get stitched together.
Yeah.
It's that sort of semantic programming, if you
Right.
think about it from that perspective. But you still leverage other models, whether that's prediction, classification models
Right.
on the back end, and you're really bringing all of that together to create this sort of beautiful user-facing
Yeah.
application.
They talked a lot about, and it was a lot of it was news to me, but the vector search, the vector capabilities. Because I always wondered, I type in my words, and how are they making all these associations? Well, with translating not just words but phrases into a numeric
So
representation.
it's actually not phrases. The difference between vector search and like regular search
Yeah.
is the notion of concepts.
Right.
Vector databases store concepts. So which is why when you give it an image of a rusted pipe, and when you type rusted pipe, both mean the same thing,
Yeah.
because the concept of rusted pipe is understood in the same, it mathematically is represented the same way in the embeddings. And that's what makes it so powerful. And
Right.
that is kind of the foundational technology behind multimodal. No matter how I'm interacting, voice, video,
The
text,
vector is the glue
image,
that makes all
the
that happen.
vector is the same thing.
Yeah.
The semantic similarity.
Yeah.
That's what it gets
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Any language, all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was really excited to see vector databases basically available across
The
Exactly.
board, yeah. I mean,
That was
and that
great
content
news.
being parallel.
Yeah, we were so limited in a large extent to the choices that you had for the vector databases.
Yeah.
They just pretty much opened it up. I mean, some are in preview, but those will all come there. But we know the trajectory, so that you don't have to, for your applications, use yet another database.
Yeah, exactly.
Vector.
Make a suboptimal decision,
Exactly.
right? I need DynamoDB because that's what my application needs,
Right.
and now I can do embeddings.
Now I
and,
can do embeddings there, right
right
there.
there. So
Right.
it makes it very easy for the application developer
Yes.
to use the right database, right technology
Yeah.
to provide the best customer experience
Exactly.
for the user.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's why we live,
I
right?
mean, it reduces a lot of complexity.
Yeah.
Imagine I have two databases. Now I do similarity search here. Then I take that information. I go to my
Correct.
other relational database, the non-relational database, pull actual information and correlated information. Yes. Now it all makes it easy. Just do one query and get it all.
Right. What else is on the list? What caught your attention?
The AWS Innovation Center, I think that's huge.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
It allows customers as they're trying to pick up all of this new stuff and new ways of doing things and new types of applications to
Yeah.
build and so on. Innovation Center is a great asset to go in and get some of those ideas fleshed out and then really help them out in their journey. I think that's a huge announcement
Yeah.
from AWS. I'm super excited about it.
Absolutely. And I think it's much needed going to next year. This year was basically a Gen AI playground for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody was playing with the document summarization and image generation. So it's most commonly used use cases.
Yeah.
As you start to get into more of the business process, automation scenarios, and training on your own data, building your own models, that's where the complexity starts to emerge. And that's really where they're focused on with the Innovation Center. I was surprised. Well, I wasn't surprised with the Innovation Center
Yeah.
through Amazon Fashion. That's good. I was surprised they had something specifically for custom training your Claude model. That was
Yes.
something I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
So that was good.
That was really interesting.
Yeah. Which also indicates that there are a lot of customers that are actually wanting to do that.
That are needing to do
They're
that.
needing to do that.
Yeah,
That-
not
yes,
wanting. I
needing
mean,
to do
nobody
that.
wants
Exactly.
to spend time.
Everybody needs to go to the beach, but they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. The other thing that data is foundation for generative AI. So I know we keep talking about large language models and so on, but let's not discount all of the announcements around the zero ETL and the integrations around that are available now with all of the services that really make it easy to get good quality data within the AWS ecosystem, so that I can use it for the training and inferencing and all of those activities. So number of announcements around that.
Right.
Serverless, Redshift, there were some announcements around that. So all of those are very foundational pieces to drive this entire ecosystem.
And my question is, what do all the data engineers go to? you have no more ETL.
Because in a lot of these places where you add this technology, there's deeper, more foundational things they can go do, or more complex things they can do. But you're right. I mean,
No,
some of these
it's
places-
actually not true, right? So if you think about it, as a data engineer, instead of spending months trying to get data into AWS, I can now spend the same time working with the business user to create data products
Right.
that they can use to drive business decisions. So this is critical from in trying to get big data driven, right? So the more data products I have, the more insights I can get out of it, and my need for more data increases. And in my lifetime, as a data engineer, I expect that I will be actually doing more work than less work,
Right.
because some of the routine stuff is now taken away, and I can focus on more value-added activities. So that's my
And that's a repeating concept in basically
across
any role.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about data, but take any role.
Exactly.
Next year, even this year, you started to see some of that. Over the next 2 years, that is going to become the norm.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, queue for putting together the stories. That's again the same thing, right? We would spend so much time trying to put the dashboard together, to get the right structure, right format, right colors, align them correctly. You spend days trying to get your board deck in place.
Yeah.
Now you can get 60-70% very, very quickly, then focus on the message that you want to communicate,
Yeah.
as opposed to dicking around with the small stuff.
Right.
To think about it as well, we've been talking about democratization of data
Yeah.
for better part of a decade.
Yeah.
Right.
And education.
Starts to feel real, right?
Data literacy. It's gained some traction.
Yeah.
Right? We shouldn't disagree with that, but not a whole lot. Right?
Yeah.
We wanted to get there 90, 100%.
Yeah.
Probably like 30, 40% maybe. But what AI is doing now is actually going to accelerate that path.
Correct.
Yeah.
So with data democratization, data literacy was sort of optional.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do it, you do it. Now there's no option.
Yeah.
If you want a job, if you want to continue doing more
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
you got to go do that.
You got to go do those
No,
things.
but it also that is one side of it. But the other side of it is making it easier
Yes.
to pick up those skills, because now the learning curve is not
It
as
is reducing the learning curve.
Exactly. It's not as steep, right? It takes me along. It's a gliding curve. I can get to some, reasonable output without a lot of effort. And then obviously, every good thing takes effort. So
Yeah.
obviously, I have to learn a couple of things, but I can, it's not as steep.
One thing I do want to see, I haven't seen so far, is all of those innovations and democratization, ease of use, has been showcased, at least as far as I've seen, majority in English. I do want to see how the other languages
Are gonna-
show up.
True.
Yeah. They didn't show a lot of that today,
No.
did they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything was very English centric.
Yes.
But we talk about bringing all the data together. I thought the agents announcement was interesting as well. So for those bodies of corporate knowledge that will never be in AWS. Think of your Microsoft 365, SAP environment, whatever it might be, with just a few clicks, as they call it, being able to integrate that data.
And agents also, so our life's not simple. The job that we do is not simple. It's
Right.
always complex. And complexity requires multiple steps, processes, and that's where the agents come into play, really bringing together different pieces of information and then collecting all of that
Right.
and then generating it. So that's when we think about process automation or even bringing knowledge together, agents are really about each of them performing a task.
Yeah.
And then bringing
Then how
that
do you
together.
orchestrate it?
Orchestrate
Yeah,
it, combine
exactly.
that.
Bringing it all
and-
back.
Yes.
So, Nirmal, you were talking about two concepts. I think two concepts are very critical. So I learn a lot from Nirmal all the time.
That's why we hang around with.
So you have multimodal,
Yeah.
which is how do I understand what you're trying to accomplish,
Yeah.
right? And then you have multipath. Once I've understood what you're trying to do, there is no defined. I mean, unlike a traditional program where it's very procedural and I can only take a certain path.
Yeah.
When you go into these modern applications, using generative AI, using LLM, using agents, what it allows us to do is build multi-path applications. It assembles these, using the LLMs, it can assemble these agents together in an orchestration flow, which is unique
Yeah.
to the question that you're asking. And as developers, that's something that we have to keep in mind, that when we are building these agents, customizing them, putting them together, we are not sure what question. And Jeff, you always ask all sorts of random questions.
Right.
So we
That's why
don't
I
know
get paid
what
to do.
exactly. We don't know what you're going to ask.
curious,
We cannot
yeah.
presuppose that, and that's the beauty of where we are headed towards.
The AI gets stumped today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not there yet.
No.
It does get stumped for a lot of things, but that's
But
the
that's
future direction.
that's the future direction.
Think of programming, right?
Yeah.
We started with procedural programming.
Yeah.
So it's sort of one file, I have a sequence, and basically it goes to that sequence. Then you had object-oriented, then that enabled parallel and asynchronous operations.
Yeah.
And now we are really getting into semantic programming,
That's amazing.
where I'm really defining the various tasks and what can be accomplished, and then how we go
How we
accomplish
put it
particular
together,
activities
right,
is
yeah.
all AI.
Yeah. So, but there's the big challenge though that still exists because all of this is amazing, but for companies to adopt it, I mean, they have to be ready for a lot of this, and it's not
Yes.
just do they have smart technical people. I mean, there's organizational stuff, there's security stuff. Not that we're here to talk a lot about this stuff, but our diagnostic tool at Rackspace really does help to gauge readiness.
To gauge readiness. I would also recommend the Fair Learn program that we launched
Yeah.
internally. It allows by having these different levels of AI knowledge that you need to have, depending on whether you're exposed to it or you're trying to build a process which is AI enabled, or you're actually going to build the AI system.
Right.
We put together a curriculum that people can take, and that really enabled people to understand the power of AI.
Yeah.
And so when they see these announcements and they read about this, it's no longer alien. It's something that they can relate to, and then bring it back to their job
Yeah.
and experiment with it to see how we can improve as
And
an
it brings a
organization.
base knowledge of the language, even just the
Exactly.
language, so that we're
Exactly.
talking the same
Yeah,
language
exactly.
about that.
One announcement that came out of that was around the scholarships.
Yeah.
So that's-
with 29 million
I don't
people
know the
by
exact numbers,
25,
right?
something like that. Yeah.
So how do you really get that next generation of workforce?
Right.
You need the current generation,
Yeah.
but also at the same time you want to make sure the next generation is up to speed.
Right.
Next generation kids, they'll learn faster than
Yes,
us.
they'll learn faster than us.
But there was a strong focus as well in that context about going out to not just people that look and sound a lot like us, but to get more girls into it. Those that might have not even been excited about a STEM program because a lot of this isn't a traditional data science
Programming.
type
It's
thing
not,
or programming.
It's not traditional programming.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, we were just talking about this before this live program, that a challenge that we are seeing is prompt engineering is not really programming.
Right.
So the people who are good prompt engineers are people who have empathy, have good command of the language, can
They understand the
it.
business.
They understand the
Yes.
business,
Yeah.
and they don't necessarily have to know anything about fine tuning a model.
Right.
So it's just, it brings more people. Again, it's democratization
It
in
is
that sense, right?
democratization. You need
It
more
brings more
creativity.
people
Yeah.
into the
That's
process.
interesting. Do you ever think when you went to computer science school, university,
be
and you're
creative?
thinking, where are the
No.
creative people?
No.
No, that was not on the.
That was
the
the
list.
least on our agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. All right, we got a few more minutes. Any other big hot tickets you
No,
want to talk about
let's
that
go
were
through
on
the
your
list.
list? We talked vectors, in-memory vector database, cool stuff. Of course, the new name Titan. Titan's on everything.
Yep.
Their
Yeah,
new
the models.
image.
I think we talked
Yeah.
about those.
Yeah.
The images. Yeah, the Titan image models.
That was
are
pretty
good.
interesting.
Yes.
The one time we were talking about this in a chat as it was happening live, but them putting a watermark on those images
Yes.
as
Yeah.
well, an
Yeah.
invisible watermark,
Yeah.
to know that they were AI generated.
I'm glad they're starting to do that. I think the last part is responsible AI.
Yeah,
Great tools, great technology.
takes a lot of responsibility.
Takes a lot of responsibility to make sure you're adopting it in the right manner.
Yeah,
And it's just not responsibility from sort of an individual perspective, but really organizational perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And covering aspects of from Rackspace perspective, right? We talk about symbiotic.
Yeah.
How does AI cooperate with humans?
That's right. Not replace,
not,
but
not co-opt humans.
yeah. Cool. Oh, that's a good phrase.
Yeah.
I like that.
So symbiotic, secure. Security is going to be important, and like everything else, AI and models are hackable as well. Even today, I saw news on researchers being able to break into ChatGPT,
Really?
right, and pull out the training data. So really building secure platforms, leveraging AI in a secure manner is going to be critical.
Yeah.
And then the last part is sustainable. And we
Right.
talked about that from education enabling everybody,
Right.
but also better process and more
Yeah.
sort of greener AI.
Yeah, they talked yesterday with when Jensen was on stage about the GDX Cloud, GXC. I don't remember the acronym, but at any rate, it would be able to do the training the models in half the time. And when you think about half the time, we think of it in the context of good, I can have it sooner, but that means less electricity.
Yes,
It means
exactly.
less.
Less consumption. Yes,
That's
all
right.
of those. Yeah.
Right.
It's the same thing with serverless as well, right? Use the serverless, your Redshift serverless, yes, makes things simple for the programmer to bring the services up and run your run your ETL jobs.
Yeah.
But it also makes it easy to be green. Because now you don't have all of this compute running around when
Yeah.
there's nothing happening in the system.
The old Kermit the Frog thing. It isn't easy being green. Apparently, it is getting easier to be green.
So I think we should I mean, we're in Vegas after all.
That's right.
So why don't we finish with Party Rock? No? You want to talk about Party Rock?
Yeah, sure.
So Amazon Party Rock.
Yeah.
So for those of you who haven't taken a look at it yet, go check it out. It's sort of your builder's tool for
Yeah.
go build your own chatbot. And that's very interesting. I think the good thing they've done there is you don't need an account. You just need just
Really?
any.
And it's very
social
approachable.
network.
It's
a
very
approachable.
approachable. You don't need programming. You can build all sorts of app, whether it's around Q&A against a document or producing images. It's very approachable, very easy. Gives you a very good idea of what are the applications of these models of generative AI,
exactly.
and then from there, obviously, use your imagination of
Yeah.
how you want to apply it in your
And
life.
it just helps demystify
Yeah.
AI because we are
Right.
literally sitting on decades of bad movies that have taught us that AI is here to kill us.
Yeah. I hope we don't get there. But
You're right. But if we're
That's another
responsible
topic. Yes.
and in all the ways that we should be, and we aren't co-opting, but it's cooperating with us, then-
Exactly.
then it's good.
yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Keep your ear to the
Yeah,
ground.
thanks,
Keep
Jeff.
listening to the announcements. We'll have you back to talk about more of those.
That's good.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right,
Thanks,
everyone,
Jeff.
thank you so much for watching the program here today. And know that we will be back tomorrow with more updates of what's happening here at reInvent 2023 live from Las Vegas.